The Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch, Number 2, Prajna. The next day, Prefect Wei asked Huineng to benefit sentient beings by lecturing on the Dharma. The master ascended the lecture seat and informed the assembly, "You should all purify your minds and concentrate on the great perfection of wisdom, Mahaprajna Paramita." Huineng continued, "Good friends, Bodhi is the wisdom of Prajna. People of this world possess it fundamentally and naturally. It is only because your minds are deluded that you are unable to become enlightened yourselves. You must rely on a great spiritual compatriot to show you how to see the nature. You must realize that there is fundamentally no distinction between the Buddha natures of the foolish and the wise. It is only because of delusion and enlightenment that you think they are different, and that there are foolish and wise. I will now explain the teaching of the great perfection of wisdom for you, so that you will all attain wisdom. Listen well and attentively, and I will explain this for you. Good friends, people of this world always recite prajna with their mouths, but they don't recognize the prajna of the self-natures. This is like talking about eating, which doesn't satisfy one's hunger. If you just talk about emptiness with your mouths, you won't be able to see the nature for a myriad eons. Ultimately, this is of no benefit at all. Good friends, Mahaprajna Paramita is a Sanskrit word. Here we say, quote, great wisdom going to the other shore. This must be practiced in the mind, not recited by the mouth. To recite it orally without practicing it in the mind is as unreal as a phantasm or hallucination, and as evanescent as dew or lightning. To recite it orally and practice it mentally is for mind and mouth to correspond. The fundamental nature is Buddha. There is no other Buddha apart from this nature. What is, quote, Maha? Maha means great. The ratiocination of the mind is vast, like space, which is boundless. Space is also without square and round, large and small. It is neither blue, yellow, red, nor white. It is also without above and below, long and short. It is also without anger and without joy, without affirmation and without negation, without good and without evil, without beginning and end. The fields of the Buddha are all identical to space. The wondrous natures of people of this world are empty, without a single dharma that can be perceived. The emptiness of the self-natures is also like this. Good friends, don't listen to me explain emptiness and then become attached to emptiness. The most important thing is not to become attached to emptiness. If you empty your minds and sit in quietude, this is to become attached to the emptiness of blankness. Good friends, the space of this world embraces within itself the myriad things and all the images of form, the sun, moon, and stars, and the mountains, rivers, and earth, the springs and streams that enrich the plants and forests, bad people and good people, bad dharmas and good dharmas, the heavens and hells, all the great oceans and the mountains, including Sumeru. All of these exist within space. The emptiness of the natures of the people of this world is also like this. Good friends, that the self-natures can embody the myriad dharmas is, quote, great. The myriad dharmas are within people's natures. If one perceives the goodness and badness of people without ever grasping or rejecting their goodness and badness, one will not become tainted or attached. For the mind to be like space is called great. Therefore it is said to be Maha. Good friends, the deluded speak with their mouths, but the wise practice with their minds. Furthermore, there are deluded people who empty their minds and sit in quietude without thinking of anything whatsoever, claiming that this is great. You can't even speak to these people because of their false views. Good friends, the ratiocination of the mind is vast and great, permeating the Dharmadhatu, i.e., the cosmos. Functioning, it comprehensively and distinctly responds to things. Functioning, it knows everything. Everything is the one mind. The one mind is everything. With mind and dharmas going and coming of themselves, the essence of the mind is without stagnation. This is Prajna. Good friends, all Prajna wisdom is generated from the self-natures. It does not enter us from the outside. To not err in its functioning is called the spontaneous functioning of the true nature. When the one mind is true, all things are true. When your minds are considering the great affair, you will not practice the small path. Do not be always speaking of emptiness with your mouth without cultivating the practice in your minds. That would be like an ordinary person claiming to be a king. You will never attain anything this way. Such persons are not my disciples. Good friends, what is Prajna? In Chinese it is called wisdom. To always practice wisdom in all places, at all times, and in all moments of thought, without stupidity, this is the practice of Prajna. A single moment's stupidity, and Prajna is eradicated. A single moment's wisdom, and Prajna is generated. The people of this world are stupid and deluded, and do not see Prajna. They speak of Prajna in their mouths, but are always stupid in their minds. They always say to themselves, I am cultivating Prajna. In every moment of thought they speak of emptiness, without recognizing true emptiness. Prajna is without shape or characteristics. It is the mind of wisdom. To have such an understanding is called the wisdom of Prajna. What is paramita? This is an Indian word. In Chinese it is, quote, arriving at the other shore. If one understands the meaning of Buddhism, one transcends samsara. If one is attached to one's sensory realms, samsara is activated, just as waves arise on water. This is called the, quote, other shore. Therefore it is said to be paramita. Good friends, the deluded person recites with his mouth, and he does so with falsity and error. To practice in every moment of thought is called the true nature. To be enlightened to this Dharma is the Dharma of Prajna. To cultivate this practice is the practice of Prajna. To not cultivate this is to be an ordinary unenlightened person. To cultivate this in a single moment of thought is to be equivalent to the Buddha in one's own body. Good friends, ordinary people are Buddhas, and the afflictions are Bodhi. With a preceding moment of deluded thought, one was an ordinary person. But with a succeeding moment of enlightened thought, one is a Buddha. To be attached to one's sensory realms in a preceding moment of thought is affliction. But to transcend the realms in a succeeding moment of thought is Bodhi. Good friends, Mahaprajna Paramita is the most honored, the supreme, the primary. It is without abiding in the present, without going into the past, and without coming from the future. It is from this that all the Buddhas of the three periods of time emerge. One should use this great wisdom to destroy the enervating defilements of the afflictions of the five skandhas. Those who cultivate in this fashion will definitely accomplish the enlightenment of Buddhahood, transforming the three poisons into morality, meditation, and wisdom. Good friends, in this teaching of ours, 84,000 wisdoms are generated from one Prajna. Why? Because the people of this world have 84,000 enervating defilements. If they were without these enervating defilements, wisdom would always be manifest, and they would not depart from the self-natures. To be enlightened to this Dharma is to be without thought, to be without recollection, without attachment, to not activate the false and deceptive. This is to allow one's self-suchness nature to function. To use wisdom to contemplate all the dharmas without grasping or rejecting is to see the nature and accomplish the enlightenment of Buddhahood. Good friends, if you wish to enter into the profound Dharma Dhatu and the Samadhi of Prajna, you must cultivate the practice of Prajna and recite the Diamond Sutra. Thus will you attain seeing the nature. You should realize that the merits of this sutra are immeasurable and unlimited. They are clearly praised within the sutra. I cannot explain them fully here. This teaching is the supreme vehicle. It is preached for those of great wisdom. It is preached for those of superior capacities. Those of small capacities and small wisdom who hear it will generate doubt. Why? It is likened to rain poured down by the great dragon onto Jambudvipa. It washes away all the cities, towns, and villages as if they were floating plants. But rain falling on the ocean causes it neither to increase nor to decrease. If a person of the Mahayana or a person of the Supreme Vehicle hears this explanation of the Diamond Sutra, his mind will open forth in enlightened understanding. Therefore, you should understand that your fundamental natures have in themselves the wisdom of Prajna. Allowing this wisdom to function of itself in constant contemplation, one therefore need not rely on the written word. It is likened to rainwater, which does not derive from heaven. Fundamentally, this rainwater is engendered by the dragon, and it causes all living beings, all plants, all those sentient beings and insentient beings to be enriched. But the 100 streams flow together into the ocean, where they become one. The wisdom of Prajna, which is the fundamental nature of sentient beings, is also like this. Good friends, those of small capacities who hear this sudden teaching are like plants whose capacities are small. Beset by a great rain, they all collapse and are unable to grow. People of small capacities are also like this. They possess the wisdom of Prajna fundamentally, no differently from those of great wisdom. So why do they hear the Dharma without being able to become enlightened? Because of the profundity of their false views and layered afflictions. Just as if great clouds are blocking the sun, unless a wind blows them away, the light of the sun will not be visible. There is also no great and small in the wisdom of Prajna. It is only that the delusion and enlightenment of the minds of all sentient beings differ. Those with deluded minds appear to be cultivating and seeking Buddhahood, but they are unenlightened to their self-natures. Hence, they are of small capacities. If one is to be enlightened to the sudden teaching, one cannot cultivate externally, i.e., superficially. One should just constantly activate correct views in one's own mind, and the enervating defilements of the afflictions will be rendered permanently unable to defile one. This is to see the nature. Good friends, one should not reside within or without, and one's going and coming should be autonomous. One who is able to eradicate the mind of attachment will attain penetration unhindered. Those who are able to cultivate this practice are fundamentally no different from what is described in the Prajna Sutra. Good friends, all the sutras and all their words, the 2 vehicles of great and small, and the 12 divisions of the canon, all these were established because of people, and could only have been established because of the wisdom nature. If there were no people in this world, all the myriad dharmas would be fundamentally and naturally non-existent. Therefore, you should realize that the myriad dharmas were fundamentally generated because of people. All the sutras and texts exist through being preached because of people. Because some people are stupid and some are wise, the stupid being the small and the wise being the great, the stupid ask questions of the wise and the wise preach the Dharma for the stupid. When a stupid person suddenly becomes enlightened, his mind opening forth, he is no different from a wise person. Good friends, if one is unenlightened, then the Buddhas are sentient beings. When one is enlightened for even a single moment, then sentient beings are Buddhas. Therefore, you should understand that the myriad dharmas are all within your own minds. Why can't you suddenly see the fundamental nature of suchness from within your own minds? The Sutra of the Bodhisattva Precept says, quote, I am fundamentally pure in self-nature, close quote. If you recognize your own mind and see the nature, you will definitely accomplish the enlightenment of Buddhahood. The Vimalakirti Sutra says, quote, he then unexpectedly retrieved the fundamental mind, close quote. Good friends, when I was with His Reverence Hung Jen, I became enlightened as soon as I heard him speak. I suddenly saw the fundamental nature of suchness. Therefore, I am disseminating this teaching so that you who study the way may become suddenly enlightened and achieve Bodhi. You should each contemplate your minds and see the fundamental nature. If you do not become enlightened by yourself, then you must seek a great spiritual compatriot, someone who understands the Dharma of the Supreme Vehicle, to indicate directly the correct path for you. This spiritual compatriot will have a great background and will, so to speak, lead you to the attainment of seeing the nature. This is because the spiritual compatriot is able to manifest the causes of all the good dharmas. All the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time and the 12 divisions of the canon are fundamentally and naturally immanent within the natures of people. But if you cannot become enlightened yourself, you must seek a spiritual compatriot's instructions in order to see the nature. If you can become enlightened yourself, don't rely on external seeking. Don't think I'm saying you can only attain emancipation through the help of a spiritual compatriot other than yourself. This is not the case. Why? Within your own minds, there is a spiritual compatriot who will help you become enlightened by yourself. If you activate the false and deluded, you will become all mixed up with false thoughts. Although some external spiritual compatriots may be teachers, they cannot save you. If you activate the correct and true and contemplate with prajna, in a single instant, all your false thoughts will be completely eradicated. If you recognize the self-nature, with a single experience of enlightenment, you will attain the stage of Buddhahood. Good friends, in wisdom's contemplation, both interior and exterior are clearly penetrated, and one recognizes one's own fundamental mind. If you recognize your fundamental mind, this is the fundamental emancipation. And if you attain emancipation, this is the samadhi of prajna. This is non-thought. What is non-thought? If, in seeing all the dharmas, the mind is not defiled or attached, this is non-thought. The mind's functioning pervades all locations, yet it is not attached to all the locations. Just purify the fundamental mind, causing the six consciousnesses to emerge from the six sensory gates, causing one to be without defilement or heterogeneity within the six types of sensory data, literally the six dusts. Autonomous in the coming and going of mental phenomena, one's penetrating function without stagnation. This is the samadhi of Prajna, the autonomous emancipation. This is called the practice of non-thought. If one does not think of the 100 things in order to cause thought to be eradicated, this is bondage within the Dharma. This is called an extreme view. Good friends, to be enlightened to the Dharma of non-thought is for the myriad Dharmas to be completely penetrated. To be enlightened to the Dharma of non-thought is to see the realms of all the Buddhas. To be enlightened to the Dharma of non-thought is to arrive at the stage of Buddhahood. Good friends, those who attain my Dharma in later generations will see and practice according to this sudden teaching exactly as I have explained. Because they will generate the vow to attain Buddhahood and maintain it just as if they are serving the Buddha, they will not regress during their entire lives and will definitely enter the stage of sagehood. But they must transmit that which has been silently transmitted from before, imparting it without obscuring the true Dharma. If they do not see and practice as I have explained, but operate within the context of another Dharma, the transmission will not occur, and they will do a disservice to, or literally harm, their predecessors. Ultimately, this would be of no benefit to sentient beings. I fear that stupid people will not understand and will revile this teaching, for which they will eradicate their seeds of Buddhahood for 100 eons and 1,000 lives. Good friends, I have a formless verse, which you should all listen to. Whether you are a householder or one who has left home, you should simply cultivate in reliance on this. To not cultivate enlightenment yourself, but merely to memorize what I say, would be of no benefit at all. Listen to my verse. The penetration of preaching and the penetration of mind are like the sun located in space. I transmit only the Dharma of seeing the nature. I have appeared in the world to destroy the false teachings. There are no sudden and gradual in the Dharma. It is delusion and enlightenment that are slow or fast. It is only this teaching of seeing the nature which stupid people cannot comprehend. Although there are a myriad ways to explain it, those which are reasonable all revert to the one. Within the dark house of the afflictions, there always lives the Sun of Wisdom. The false comes, and the afflictions arrive too. The correct comes, and the afflictions are eliminated. Allowing neither false nor correct to function, in purity one arrives at the remainderless nirvana. Bodhi fundamentally is the self-nature. Activate the mind, and all is false. Purify the mind within the false. Just be correct in being without the three hindrances. If people of this world cultivate the way, i.e., enlightenment, they will not be hindered by anything at all. Always see one's own errors and be in accord with the way. The categories of form have their own ways, and they do not hinder or afflict each other. If one seeks the way apart from the way, one will never see the way. If one passes one's life in prevarication, one will ultimately only cause oneself grief. If you want to see the true way, practice the correct, and this is the way. If one's eyes have no aspiration for the way, one will practice in obscurity and will not see the way. If one is a true cultivator of the way, one will not see the transgressions of the world. If one sees the errors of others, one's own errors will rather be augmented. If one considers others to be in error and not oneself, one's errors will automatically embody a transgression. Simply eliminate any inclination to see errors and smash away the afflictions. Repugnance and attraction have nothing to do with the mind. Stretch out both legs and lie down. If you want to teach others, you must have expedient means yourself. Do not make them destroy their doubts. This is what allows the self-nature to become manifest. Buddhism's being in the world is not separate from the awareness of the world. To seek Bodhi apart from the world is like searching for the horn of a hare. Correct seeing or views is called to escape the world. False seeing is to be in the world. When false and correct are completely destroyed, the nature of Bodhi is just so. This verse is the sudden teaching. It is also called the ship of the great Dharma. In delusion, one can listen to the sutras for eons, but enlightenment occurs in a moment. The Master spoke again. Now, at Tafan Monastery, I have preached this sudden teaching. I hope that all sentient beings throughout the Dharmadhatu will, at these words, see the nature and accomplish Buddhahood. At that time, everyone listening to the Master's preaching, Prefect Wei, the government staff, and the ordained and lay followers, all experienced enlightenment. Simultaneously, they bowed and sighed. How excellent! Whenever has a Buddha appeared in the world in Ling Nan?